Hi, I'm Jim Bergen, pastor at Holy Cross Lutheran Church in Houston, Texas. This sermon for Advent, the fourth Sunday of Advent in the C series. Wait! Today we celebrate marginalized places and people. We lift them up for at least one Sunday of the church year to say with wonder, look at them, lost people and places. Bethlehem, Mary, Elizabeth, lost people in a lost place, but they were obedient, joyful, and faithful. Perhaps we ought to get lost in wonder, joy, and praise. Bethlehem, the word means house of bread. It had brief brushes with greatness. Ruth and Boaz met there. Their mixed marriage made them the grandparents of King David, who was born there. And King David was also anointed there as king by Samuel. It's the backdrop for the grisly story of the Levite's concubine, and home to a minor judge of Israel named Ibzan, who had 60 children and managed to find them all husbands or wives. How nice it is that the house of bread, Bethlehem, also finally produced Jesus, the bread of heaven. The fortunes of places rise and fall. 1,000 years ago, Lindsborg was a settlement home to an estimated 20,000 indigenous Americans, a trading and pilgrimage crossroads. Perhaps one day a Dollar horse will win the Triple Crown. June 17, 1673, a baby girl was born in Epworth, England. Her 15th child, John, and her 18th child, Charles, the Wesley Boys, preached and sang into England the Methodist revival. With 19 children, Susanna Wesley knew hard work and slim resources, but her beauty, intellect, and moral character made her stand out. She mastered Greek and Latin, French, and of course English. She was not allowed to study theology, but she could argue her pastor father to a standstill. A legendary mother, perhaps less known than Mary or Elizabeth. Mary had to absorb many impossible pronouncements upon her future and her Aunt Elizabeth's future as well. Did the angel really say that? Mary was practical, but she believed, but as they say, trust, but verify. So she makes a harrowing trip by herself, without a security guard or a chaperone, to see Elizabeth. Elizabeth's really pregnant. She's elderly, at a high risk to die in childbirth. Fetal John leaps in Elizabeth's womb upon hearing the voice of Mary. That would be seen by most women of her age as a bad sign, a dangerous complication in a risky pregnancy. She's way beyond the normal guidelines for giving birth. But it's nice to have an older aunt who can advise on pregnancy, even though Elizabeth has been previously barren and has no real personal experience. Actually, in those days, bigenerational pregnancy is extremely unlikely, particularly in one family. Most women died before their childbearing years were concluded, often in childbirth. In this account, the behind-the-scenes status level ratings of the women and their families, it's all over the place, with ambiguous circumstances and options and opinions. Elizabeth, you're too old, and God has not blessed you because you're barren. Mary, you're too young, and you're not quite yet married. You're not worthy of a blessing. Elizabeth's personal status is lowered when she bows to Mary's greatness and blesses her. Elizabeth gives Mary exalted status. Elizabeth, in turn, is liberated from months of seclusion and silence. Now her pregnancy, an impossible blessing from God, unbelievable, it could be announced and acknowledged. Both women take on new identities. They're no longer marked as outcasts because of barrenness or virginity. They're elevated to the most powerful traditional sphere available to women. They are fertile mothers. As such, they will influence the religious, political history of Israel and the whole world. Like the people who lived and loved and struggled in Bethlehem, we too live our lives. We go through epic struggles and wage battles to keep the best alive in others and ourselves. Day by day, we fight to keep our awareness and love alive and let the Christ child grow within us. And sometimes we just don't see the greatness in our midst. Those who serve, they are the greatest. Waitresses, they lift heavy loads and balance them, while co-workers crash into them. They are pinched, poked, grabbed, and yelled at. Loutish oafs make crude comments. They have to smile and be nice, or no tip. Being waitstaff is an honorable profession, but it's a brutal way to make a buck. There are two sides to the tray: the customer's side and the waiter's side. And on the customer's side are the proud, pampered, and powerful. They are paying for service. On the waiter's side are the humble and harassed, often seen by the entitled on the other side of the tray as beneath conversation and consideration. During a business lunch, if you want to know something about how a potential partner acts or his character, see how they treat or tip the waiter or waitress. They'll treat you the same. Mary and Elizabeth are on the waiter's side of the tray. Their reaction to their conditions announced by the angels is, "Here I am, the servant of the Lord. I will wait for your order." Hey, Waitress is a book by Alison Owings. She sees that everything in the world happens on a waitress's shift. Business, politics, weddings, protests. The civil rights movement kicked off in the 60s at a lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. A waitress served the apple pie the black students ordered. She would be a hero, a good and faithful servant who witnessed a historical event in the midst of conflict and chaos and remained faithful, just like Mary and Elizabeth. They will both live to see their sons born and dead. They are real heroines for whom God comes into the world and changes history. So are we. Wait and serve. Let the Christ child grow in you. Wait. Amen.